Just end him. That was the goal of a group of 10 and 11-year-old girls who, surprise police say, wanted to kill a boy at school.
So it's not every day that you hear a news report about a bunch of 5th grade girls deciding that they are going to murder one of their male classmates, make it look like a suicide, and this is all supposed to go down in the bathroom of their school. But guess what, folks? That's what we're going to break down today. We're going to get into the motivation, the planning, the sinister intent of these particular children's, and then we're going to talk about how, of course, it didn't end up working out. These are 5th graders after all, but the fact is, women's love true crimes, and I believe their love from true crimes comes from their murderous intent that actually starts quite early in their youth. Now, we are going to get into this, we are going to break this down, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
The motive? He's accused of cheating on one of them, so she wants him dead. The murder plot was simple. According to the police report, 4 5th grade students at Legacy Traditional School's West of Price campus planned to lure a classmate to the charter school's outside bathroom and stab him in the stomach.
So one of the things that I think is incredibly interesting about this pint-sized murder plot is that they have big adult reasons behind this particular attempted killing. And essentially, what this all revolves around is the fact that this 5th grade boy allegedly was a bit of a player. This 5th grade boy was dating one of the girls in this group, and then he decided to cheat on her, and this was something that these 5th graders could not handle. This was something that they could not deal with, so they decided in response they were going to plan this elaborate murder, and the fact is, this actually is incredibly scary and ridiculous. However, I will not stop making jokes about this, and I will not stop talking about this in the humorous tone that I am right now throughout the course of this video.
Stab him in the stomach. And each girl had a role to play to get away with it. One would bring the knife. Another would forge a suicide note to make it seem like he took his own life. And someone would act as a lookout, while the other carried out the stabbing.
So look, I'm not looking to give advice to 5th graders on their murder plots, but unless this individual is a Japanese kid, the fact is, a suicide by stabbing yourself in the stomach is a very rare thing for us to see indeed. That being said, one of the things that I think we should take note of is the fact that this is called a legacy traditional school, and somebody is basically going to get murdered for cheating on somebody else because that is a violation of legacy traditional values. In addition to that, do not think that I did not notice that at the top of the police report, this is called the Surprise Police Department, and that seems like the perfect agency to discover a plot from 5th graders in order to kill one of their classmates over relationship drama. Again, all of this seems like it was generated by AI, but I found multiple different sources for this particular report for the sinister 5th grade girls, and in reality, this has actually happened, or similar things have happened before. Again, one of the reasons why the Slender Man movie was so controversial is because the Slender Man lore became incredibly popular among young girls, and in fact, 2 young girls in Wisconsin actually attempted to murder one of their friends in a bathroom, very similar to this, by stabbing that girl multiple times. Thankfully, that girl survived, but those 2 girls are in mental institutions because the fact is, they were convinced that Slender Man was real, and if they made this sacrifice to him, then guess what? Slender Man would take them to like his area or whatever. I'm not up on the mythology, kids. I don't really know what you guys are into. I just know that it's a little bit too mature for 5th graders in my humble opinion, and maybe, just maybe, you should stick to labeling somebody as having cooties rather than planning an elaborate murder because your 5th grade boyfriend cheated on you.
And to avoid fingerprints on the murder weapon, they would wear gloves.
Now look, obviously we don't know if the kid is Japanese, so we don't know if stabbing through the stomach could even be considered rationally a suicide, like as being proposed by these little girls, but the rest of their plan actually seems pretty solid. I mean, you're gonna forge a suicide note, you're gonna have a lookout, you're gonna have somebody bring the knife, somebody else do the stabby stab, and of course, you're planning to wear gloves throughout the commission of this crime, so that way they won't find any fingerprints, and I think, in reality, this is probably an ace's plan if you think about it. I mean, it's not like you're going to produce a bunch of screaming and that's going to draw attention to the bathroom, and you're either going to have one boy in the girls' bathroom or three girls in the boys' bathroom, and that's going to completely undercut absolutely everything. But one of the things that I find also incredibly amusing about this is when these girls decided to plot this murder plan.
Documents say the friends came up with the plan during lunch and recess on October 1st. Legacy administrators worked with the school resource officer to investigate when students who overheard the plot came forward.
Now, like many a great conspiracy, it is often undermined because too many people end up figuring out this. Now, unfortunately for these girls, they ended up talking about this a little bit too openly. And by the way, fortunately for the boy, even though I'm not sure this plan would have worked, the fact is he could have been seriously injured, or any of these kids could have been seriously injured in their attempt to execute it. But they ended up talking about it a little bit too broadly. Somebody ended up overhearing, went full tattletale. They're gonna go to jail. They're also a snail, by the way, and that is going to lead to these girls getting questioned. Now, of course, they have to be questioned with their parents present. That ended up happening. By the way, they had a school resource officer on staff. I just want to point out that many in the left-wing media want to defund these school resource officers. They want them out of here because they think no big deal if crime happens in your kids' schools. Obviously, this is an extreme, weird example of that being proven wrong and a piss poor policy. But of course, during questioning, most of the girls ended up breaking under interrogation. And the key word, the key term is most.
The next day, their backpacks were searched and the suspects were individually questioned with their parents present. All four children were then arrested for threatening and disorderly conduct misdemeanor charges. The police report says 3 of the students showed remorse, but the 4th would smile and laugh while making excuses for their actions.
Now look, we expect young people to break under interrogation, and these girls, make no mistake about it, 5th grade is age 10 and 11. Most of them did. Most of them gave up the plot. They apologized for it. They said that they were sorry. They were slapped with a couple of misdemeanor charges, but that one kid right there that ended up laughing and making excuses about it, that doesn't see the significance of what she was planning, I'm thinking that is the scorn lover and or the ringleader of this particular crime. And it's absolutely crazy that we ended up discovering a sociopathic 10 or 11-year-old in Arizona that showed absolutely no remorse. So I would hope that we would see a prosecution to the fullest extent of the law that you can actually do for 10 and 11-year-olds, and we would see these girls end up going to therapy or some sort of thing. But the fact is, we actually do have an update from the other local news report, and it seems like whatever action has been done has been adjudicated, and we will hear the results of that.
Maricopa County Attorney's Office tells me today that they received those misdemeanor charges last year, but the cases have since been adjudicated. I also spoke with a child psychiatrist who tells me this time in a child's life can be difficult as they're susceptible to challenges of peer pressure, but they still don't fully know right from wrong.
So we end up hearing that the case is adjudicated, and because it's a juvenile case, we don't really have any more additional information from this local news segment. But based on the idea that they're bringing in a therapist to say, oh, life is so difficult for these murderous girls, so they don't know right from wrong, I'm assuming that they ended up pleading in some way, and basically they have to go to counseling so they can understand what they did was wrong. No word yet on this absolute stud 5th grader, this heartbreaker that has now made his way to the 6th grade, that basically made 4 women so crazy they wanted to murder him. And again, he hasn't even hit puberty yet. He doesn't even know exactly the power that he wields, and he's just in 6th grade and did all this when he was in 5th grade. Again, just trying to keep it light. This is very serious. Obviously, an attempted murder or a planning of a murder on your school campus is something to be concerned about, but as of right now, everybody appears to be okay, and we have some kind of adjudication. But let's hear from the therapist, because I think in my heart of hearts that the therapist is going to say something that might piss me off.
Psychologically, you also have the influence of things like social media, society. Kids are being exposed to a lot more potentially violent or negative or adult content at a much younger age.
So look, he didn't say anything that was particularly offensive to me, but the fact is that there was no reason to bring on a therapist to say social media influences. The thing is that these children's be struggling with social media, when in reality what we were actually seeing is the fact that all women are interested in true crime, and this is innate biological predisposition to love true crime stories, and this is represented by the fact that these young girls, again in 5th grade, wanted to be true crime stars by killing a young boy and making a case that would make the internet go crazy.
Dr. Mark Anderson encourages parents to keep tabs on what their child is watching and doing online, as social media and violent video games or movies can also make an impression on a young mind.
So of course we get the lines about violent movies and violent video games making your children's violent, and you gotta pay attention to what they do online. And while I'm not against monitoring what your kids are seeing or monitoring what your kids are doing online, especially at such a young age, the fact is I don't think these girls were hardcore gamers and they decided to initiate this murder plot based on the fact that they were playing Mario Brothers or Mega Mans. I don't know what games are popular right now. I don't play Game Station, so you guys have to tell me. Maybe it's the 40 night one. That one is that still popular? Yeah, I don't think this is particularly what's behind this, but you know, whatever. You should monitor your kids, and as of right now, this crazy case has been adjudicated. However, big red flag that one kid did not break under interrogation. That is obviously the soulless one that is possessed by a demon, and I expect her to strike again, probably going to wipe out half the population of Surprise, Arizona. And by the way, you should be able to predict this. You shouldn't be surprised in your local police department by this, but you know, these people, they never learn any lessons. They're focusing too much on the video games. They're focusing too much on the Xbox Live. Do people still play Xbox? I don't even know. That's where I'm gonna leave it. Let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about girls plotting a murder. Till next time.